Thank you for joining me on my journey to a healthier lifestyle, self-love, and abundance. So I've already done a workout video and that deals with the body. So today we're going to deal a little bit with our mind. And the reason that I want to do that, it seems like that our community or just us in general sometimes just don't do enough to take care of our mental stability. So that is something that I want to tackle today. And I told you in the first video that I was going to bring some powerful people along with me. And I do not lie about stuff like that. So I have one of the most powerful women that I have really ever met today with me, and her name is Miss Kimberly Lovelady. And she is just a champion in our community, and she is a powerful force to be reckoned with. So I would like to introduce you to none other than Miss Kimberly Lovelady. Miss Kimberly, how are you doing today?
I am great today. Thank you so much. I was like, oh, I feel good. Thank you. Okay, let me sit up a little taller and let's get this, right? Thank you for introducing me that way. Actually, your words, I was like, oh, they feel so good. So they really did. So thank you.
And they're right.
And you know what? I'll accept that. I'll receive that.
Awesome.
You know, because sometimes when people say something powerful about you, we don't necessarily be like, girl, no. I'm gonna receive all of that. Like all of that up in here. I'm taking it in. Right?
You should.
And just a little about myself. My name is Kimberly Lovelady, and I am an integrative therapist. So I think that's why Patrina called me on today. And what does that mean? You're like, what's that? I'm like, an integrative therapist is a psychotherapist. I have a person who talks to you about mental health, but we look at you as a whole person, the whole body. Like you said, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and socially. Like how you interact with everybody else. And what are you eating? How are you sleeping? All that plays into your mental wellness. My specialty is trauma and complex trauma. So if you're looking for somebody just to have a little, well, I just need a little bit, that's not me. I'm more the one that's like, okay, I know some things I gotta work out, and it keeps popping up over and over again, and I need to move forward. That's when you will look for a specialist like me. And my specialty is trauma. I work a lot with professional women, high performers. They have success, they know what to do, but something is blocking them, right? And and I hate to use the word block because I feel like it's so cliche and everybody uses where you're stuck and blah, blah, blah. But they know that they can go to the next level, but there's something that's keeping them from entering that next level, and they know that they can, right? And so what I work with is to help them reduce their stress and reverse burnout. So that's really key. And doing that by helping them incorporate small daily habits into their life so they can have that life and the health that they're looking for. So it's bringing all the things together.
So that is awesome. And when we talked about that over the phone, I just felt like that was me all the way. I was like, I experience burnout sometimes, and I'm a professional. Like, can you help me? So I know that that's probably what everybody else is thinking. Like, they really need some help with that. Like, we have so many professional women who, you know, we get up, we go about our day, we do all of our daily tasks and the things that we have to do, and like sometimes we just skip out on some things that we really need to do. So are there any things that you can like give us some, maybe like 3 good pointers of things that you may be able to do each day that can help you not to experience so much burnout, or just can help you on your daily journey?
I always have to give education before I give solutions, because everybody wants solutions. They're like, no, you're going to come grab some of this information first, right? And I think it's really important because we need to define the difference between what's stress and what's burnout. And they're two really different things. And I know we use the word, well, I'm burnt out, and you probably are, or is it just a high level of stress? Mm-hmm. And just to go back to stress, there's multiple stressors, right? There's good stress and there's quote unquote, I'm not gonna say bad because I don't like good and bad. There's a stress that we enjoy and there's a stress that we just don't want, right? And so when you look at the good stressors in life, any kind of major life event that makes you excited. Graduating from something, holidays are coming up and you're seeing family members that you want to see, maybe someone's getting married, maybe someone's having a baby. Those are stressful events, but they're still really good events in most people's lives, right? So that's what we can quote unquote call the good stressors. Okay. But then there's other stressors that they're not so good, right? Those are the stressors that maybe we lose someone that we love. Maybe they're no longer here with us. Maybe that, that boss at work get on your nerves and I just really don't want to go back to work today. Like, do I have to walk through these doors, So but you need some money and something about eating that you like, so you go do that job. But those are negative events that can happen that can put stress on your body, right?
Right.
And your body don't know the difference. It's going to respond to good or bad, but it's just whether or not we want to move into it or come away from it, right? So we think about stress.
Okay.
Now, how do I know the difference between regular just stress or burnout? If I have stress and during the day and I can do whatever activities that I learn are good for me and my body that can help me reduce my stressor, and after I do whatever those is, it's gone. Then it's stress.
Okay.
But if you do whatever it is that you feel that you need for your body, and you do it, and right after you're like, that ain't work. It's still there, and it's just still weighing on you,
Right.
and you've done all the things that you know that work for you, and it's still, you're probably reading more towards burnout.
Okay.
And if you don't want to, and especially a lot of people think about burnout, we think about it in the workplace, right? And it doesn't matter how much money you're gonna pay me, I don't want to come in no more. Like, it just does not matter. You know, that's one of the big indicators. People are like, oh, I know I may get fired, but I just don't want to get up and do what I have to do. You at burnout stage.
Right.
Or if you're in the helping field and you're patient, you know, like, and I just say patient because I'm in the helping field, in the health field, and I've been in health for over 20 something years. And like, you just don't have the compassion that you know you need to be successful, you burned out.
Yeah.
Like, it don't even matter. You be like, I don't want to hear none of it, none of the stuff, you know.
I think I've been there.
So I'll give you a couple of things that you can do, and this is going to be really broad because people have to figure out themselves. But you can create a routine, just like and obviously hopefully the routine can come. It just becomes so second nature. That's what you do, and then whether it be a morning routine, a middle of the day routine, an evening routine, or something that when this kind of situation happens, I do this. Okay, so that is so that you already have a game plan ready for whenever things come up. But like in the morning, opposed to just getting up and grabbing the phone or whatever electronic device you is, because most people have it on there right next to the bed. Don't check in with the phone, check in with yourself.
Ooh,
Okay,
that's
and
good.
so like just leave the phone where it's at, and then check in and just see how you're feeling, because sometimes we wake up feeling certain kind of ways.
Right.
Check in and then set your intention for the day. What is the outcome that you want to happen today? Right, and so that actually helps shift your brain a little bit instead of accepting and taking in what other people want you to know. Like when we pick up that phone, we're receiving what other people want for our agenda for the day.
Wow, that's good.
So if you leave that alone and then you decide what do you want for your agenda for the day,
Yes.
right? So that is not even all the things, and that's less than 5 minutes, less than a minute.
Right.
But you've actually just shifted your tone, or you determined that you're going to start to shift your tone for the day. So I'm going to go with starting, but then these are just simple things. So like with ending your day,
Okay.
this is the biggest thing that I've seen the most result that most people do not like, and it's going to like feel very uncomfortable. Turn that phone off. Turn those electronics off.
So we turn the phone off again?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because that phone is such a part. Give me your response if I tell you, can you leave your phone in your purse for the whole day and not pick it up? Can you? Do you think you can?
Probably not. Probably not.
How long do you think it'll be before you pick it up?
I could give myself maybe a couple of hours. I try this sometime anyway, so probably a couple of hours before I want to check my emails and check and see what's going on with the world. Yeah.
Right. So the nighttime routine, and I've done this personally, especially when I was overwhelmed to the point of insomnia. I couldn't sleep, and the doctor was like, "Oh, you need some sleeping pills," and I'm like, "No, I'm afraid of addiction." Right? And they were like, "Well, you need to go to sleep because you need to heal." And so I had to find a way to, and they were like, "Okay, we'll turn off no screen time within an hour before bed." At least an hour. If you can't do all the things, no screen time like an hour before bed, because it affects all that light. We don't think, even if we turn the thing down low, we put the blue light on the phone, it still starts to break up your circadian rhythm. So I'm going more so I'm taking the biology as well as just the actions and the behaviors, right? So if you can put that phone away and turn off an hour before, because it starts to signal to your body it's time to rest, it's time to relax, it's time to do something different, and then pick up a habit in that time that does relax you.
Right.
And that could be some tea, that, well, for me it's tea, like a herbal tea, like chamomile tea or something like that, as much as just journaling or connecting with your partner. If you have a partner, or connecting with a friend. I know I'm going way more than just one, so I'm gonna step back and let you decide what does that look like. But put the phone down, turn the TV off, turn all the devices off, and then, or unless you're doing something that's more relaxing for you. But it has to be relaxing, and anything that stimulates, the video games, the comedians, all that, it's not relaxing, y'all. That is stimulating, and it's actually going to disturb your sleep.
So Kimberly, I don't know if you even got a chance to look at the video that I posted, but I posted a video and I was just, introducing myself and talking about my journey and stuff. And I was talking about there was a different part in my life where I went through things like I was losing my hair, I had gained weight, and I was just like having an awful time. But I did not know exactly what to call it or what I was really going through. So I know that you specialize in trauma. So could you tell me a little bit about like how, like if somebody is going through different traumas, I know different people have gone through things like childhood traumas or like relationship trauma or grief or just different things. So what are some ways to know that you are carrying trauma or that that's actually what's happening to you?
So what is trauma? Let's start there.
Okay.
So trauma is anything that's a shock, surprise, overwhelm, or a flood of emotion. It floods your emotion.
Okay.
That's what trauma, that's what's happening in your body. And then what traumatic events, we can go throw that in there. But it's that event that causes the shock, the surprise, the overwhelm, or the flood of emotion.
Okay.
Right? So that's the difference, because one is what is happening in my body, and one is the event that has occurred that makes me have that response.
Right.
So those are the two totally different things. So first of all, if there's something that you have, something that helps flood your emotions, and flooding of emotions can mean some people will go absolutely silent. We call it numbing. Because when somebody is like, oh yeah, this happened to me, and there's no expression, no nothing, it's just flat, you're traumatized, because there's some part of emotion. And that numbing is protective. It's absolutely protective. Everything I said, there's nothing wrong with whatever I'm going to say these examples, because it is just your body trying to protect itself. Your body has the ability to take care of you and protect you, but the more times that we ignore it or we don't know what's happening, we try to push through it, then we don't recognize what it's doing. Right?
Okay.
So some people will go numb. They would just go numb, act like in it, and you be like, how you just gonna sit there like ain't nothing happening?
Right.
Okay, that is a trauma response.
Oh.
Just know that is a protective, that is a trauma response.
Okay.
Then somebody else may go just the opposite end and go enraged and go out because they don't know how to process all these emotions that are coming in one spot. And probably more likely in their childhood, they learned how to be heard through anger.
Yeah.
So that's how they're going to deal with it, and they're going to come out and flood in anger. Like, so these are some of the responses that we would do. And I'm just going both extremes, and it can be anything in the middle, right? Or physically, but how does it physically show up in the body? Actually, everyone, I almost want to say, you've already given me yours, but, or some of them. But sometimes the way you'll know if you're being trauma, like how's trauma showing up in your body, we got to get quiet. And that's one of the things that another response is, if you're afraid to get quiet, what are you running from? Then a lot of us will run, we'll get busy. So that's another one. You get busy and you're doing it. It's like, I'm gonna need you to sit down, and because there's something major that's happening in your life, and you're trying to outwork it.
Right.
You're trying to
process it.
Yeah, and some people just go to work. They'll like work and become workaholics and stuff like that because they are trying to not deal with that flood of emotion. So these are all the things that we'll do to not deal with the flood of emotion. But how does this show up physically in our body? It may show up in hair loss, and it's interesting because the hair loss, most people think, well, my hair breaking off my edges. That could be your braids, or it could be actually stress. But most of the time, it's a certain spot in your scalp that sometimes it'll go bald on you, but sometimes it'll just break off, and then it'll grow back and you do the things, and then you'll get stressed out again, and then it'll come back in that same spot. That is a good indicator that it may be a stress response. Right. Another thing is that sometimes most people, when you start seeing people do this, there may be some pain in their hands or something, and they're trying to work it out because our body naturally. So that could be how stress or trauma shows up and I'll say stress shows up in your body, or muscle aches, muscle tensions. The one that everybody can think about, and they're like, that happened to me all the time. When your neck starts to tighten up and you can't move your neck, or you have to move your whole body. That is a real good indicator that not only is it stress or trauma response, but you are ignoring it, and your body keeps the score.
Your body keeps score.
The body keeps score.
Actually.
Yeah. So like in the book, The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk.
Right.
Like he tells you that trauma is stored in our body and it is trapped. And so it's like, it is so real, because if you think about an event or something and then a certain body part or certain things start to feel like you feel that pain in your body, that is where that trauma is trapped inside of your body.
Wow.
And so the thing is that when you start seeing or feeling something, just stop and say, where do I feel it in my body? And any great therapist is going to ask you, especially if they do somatic work or trauma work, oh, you said that, great. Okay, so when you think about that, where do you feel it in your body? Because what happens is that when we experience a traumatic event, we begin to what they call dissociate, and dissociation isn't a bad thing, because sometimes you got to check out because it's overwhelming to your system.
Right.
But then one of the things the therapist is going to do is going to ask you about this event and then where you feel it, and then ask you, because it's bringing the connection back to your emotional response back into the physical part of your body. Because most of the time when we're traumatized, we separate the two, because nobody want to feel. I don't want to feel that. So I got to bring you back connected so we can process it so that it can leave your body.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got to go through some processes. I've had so many. Now that answers so much for me, because I see people that have the numbness, and I also see people who have the busy. They're just busy, or things that are going on in their body. And I'm like, okay, now this is some things that you need to talk to Miss Kimberly about. So you need to process.
There's another one. Your brain is your second. Your gut is your second brain.
Yes.
So with that, because some people are like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but ooh, my stomach, toe up. Oh my God, I feel it in my stomach, and it is like, oh, all of that's here that you're ignoring is showing up here.
Wow.
And your gut flora is off. And you can eat and stuff through that, but it's like, that's your body telling you, I'm not okay. And it's not a bad thing. It's just like, hey, listen to me, I'm telling you, I'm not okay.
So basically, what you've been saying is your body will always tell you. Your body keeps score. You have physical things that are going to tell you. Your mental, sometimes blockage, or even in your stomach, or like you said, your mind and your gut, your gut are connected. So basically, your body is almost always going to tell you. You just have to stop and listen to your body and see what it's saying, and then you have to respond appropriately.
Right. And if you find yourself not knowing what to do, seek professional help. 80% of the doctor visits or more mental and emotional health and not physical. But they know that they're the trusted sources. I'm going to go to my physician because it's showing up like I got a rash. I got this rash and I don't understand what it is. And the doctor's like, like that is nothing. Or you're like, my stomach is messed up. And most of the time, once you sit there and you pour out all the things that's going on with your doctor, if they give you the time, then the stuff starts to dissipate. But that's not the doctor's job.
Right.
That is not, they are there to help with some of them are more preventative, but they are there for their physical health.
Right.
That's what they're there for. And then they refer you out to the therapist or the counselor, whoever, for your emotional health. And most people want to put that job on their doctors. Quit it. I'm like, quit it. That is my biggest thing.
Right.
Like, if you had a fungus on your toe, would you go to the eye doctor for it?
No.
Where are you going?
You're going to go to the podiatrist.
Right. That's where you should go.
Right.
But most people want to, and so that's the difference between when you have an emotional upset and this, I'm going to call it mental wellness.
Okay.
You need to go to the therapist. And if you find, well, I don't like that therapist, well, you don't like all the doctors out there either.
Right.
So go to the one that you bond with, you connect with, and you feel that they get you. If you pick up your Google doctors near me, you're going to come up and you're going to get overwhelmed with the amount of doctors near you. So just like that, you can find therapists near you. And if you got more particular, more specific things you're looking for, if you want a brown or a black therapist, okay, some of the places you can go, I would say Therapy for Black Girls, number one.
Okay.
Black female therapists. These are all websites I'm giving you, where you can go, and they are, and if like you are mixed race and you don't want to go with between one or the other, it's one Therapy for brown girls. It's like, go find the place or the person, and they got some for men. Therapy for black men.
Oh.
Therapy for brown men.
Yeah.
my brother, like Heal Brother. Like these are different, and these are all different sites I'm giving them to go to find a therapist. And if you want to wonder, well, I'm gonna need a therapist. I don't want a black therapist because I need somebody who ain't in my community. Well, that's fine too, but don't get mad if you can't make the connection. Now, if you can make the connection with that therapist,
that's fine.
Great.
Yeah.
But if you find a therapist that you find yourself not telling them stuff, that's not a good fit. Because if I ask you on a scale of 0 to 10 how you feeling, and there's some things that you really don't want me to know, and you say, I'm about a 5 even though you're feeling a 10, I'm going to work with you on a 5.
Right, so you're not going to get the level of care that you need.
You're not going to get the level of healing you need because you just didn't tell me all the information. You're holding information back. So you're not going to get the level of care, because if you tell me a 10, I'm going to deal with you differently in what we go through than the person with a 5.
Right.
You gotta be able to be open and vulnerable and really truthfully tell them what's going on.
So thank you for that answer. So now I know how it would have been if I had experienced trauma, or if I've had a traumatic event, or how to find it in my body. So now I know all of those things. So now I know if I've had trauma, or if I've gone through different things like grief, or gone through things as a kid, and I've had this trauma that's just been in my body, like what is the victim's role in that now that I know that this is something that I'm carrying, this is something that I'm holding on to, like what is my role as far as making myself a better person, or what is the next thing that I need to do in order to get rid of that, and so I won't hurt anybody else along the way.
When we think of the word victim, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't use it. I don't like labels, right? Which is hard. You're like, you're a therapist. What do you mean you don't like labels? Because in order to get paid, we got to diagnose. So that's a whole nother story. But so the thing is, what you're asking is more about a victim mentality, is what we would call it, because a person has had an experience. I'm not going to call you a victim. You've had a predator or a perpetrator do something to you. So that's real, right? But you've had an experience. But that doesn't make you a victim. That just makes you a person who had an adverse experience in their life, right? So when you take on, and when we say victim and victim mentality, then that also gives the event or that person power over you. And that's not what we're doing. So in order to take your power back, let's get rid of the word victim. Number one. And then we say, well, it's a victim mentality. And typically someone who has a victim mentality is something that's happened to them. They take ownership of what's going on. And then they, not only that, but they'll just say, well, and they make excuses for some of the behaviors that they do because of what has happened to them. Right? And then not only that, but they will not take personal responsibility for whatever their actions is. And they'll be like, well, I did this because my mama was mean to me. Well, yeah, your mom was mean to you. And yes, that sucks. And you know what? Your goal is, if you choose to be around your mama, your choice. As you get older, as children, you ain't got no choice. But if you choose to be around you get to choose. Am I going to be around in relationship with her? So now it's not like, well, she my mom, I have to. No. You get to choose what relationships you allow in your life. And I'm talking from an adult perspective, most definitely. Right?
Definitely.
Am I going to have her in my life? And then 2, if she get to cutting up, am I going to stay in this thing? Or am I going to remove myself from it? These goes back to boundaries and stuff like that. Or am I going to sit here and take it, and then I'm going to go and kick the dog and say, well, this is just what I do. This is how I respond. And I said kick the dog, because most people are going, kick the dog? I would never kick the dog, right? But you're taking all of this in, and you are being mean to other people and things around you. Is it equivalent to kicking a dog? Because you angry at the wrong, you showing this anger or this whatever you got going on, you're shutting down. But you're not dealing with the person that you really got the problem with, right? And so, and the victim mentality is really taking responsibility and owning your stuff. Don't be like, oh, I can think about somebody that's a smoker, and I'm not getting on smoking. I'm thinking about a person in particular, and names and stuff will be hidden. But they'll say, oh, well, I was in the house with somebody that was smoking. And maybe they were smoking some funny cigarettes, or they were smoking something like
left-hand cigarettes.
Yeah. They were smoking, and you're like, oh well, my breathing didn't get affected till I came into your house where I'm smelling your smoke. did you forget about the whole pack of cigarettes that you smoked earlier this week?
Right.
Like, so opposed to taking responsibility that my breathing may be complicated because of my behaviors that I'm doing,
Right.
I'm blaming it on somebody else because I walked into their house and I smelled the lingerings of their smoke. Right, and that's just, they're not taking responsibility for their own actions and how it's playing a role in their health and in their life and how they show up. And that was just a physical thing with the cigarettes I could think about on the top of my head.
But it's taking responsibility, like you said. Sometimes you have to take action and responsibility for yourself, and you know, not being a victim. Just eliminate the whole victim word, situation, and all of that, and then just take a responsibility, whether it's going to counseling or whether it's doing some of the things that you mentioned earlier, just as far as stress responses and all of those things. So just taking a responsibility to.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So the thing, what can I do? Absolutely,
Right.
Everything you just said. But the first thing you gotta do is acknowledge that there is a problem.
Right.
Like old school G.I. Joe cartoons, knowing is half the battle.
Knowing is half the battle.
You gotta know something's going on, and once you recognize it, now you ask yourself, well, what did I do? What can I do? What am I willing to do?
Right.
Because I can do it don't mean I'm ready to deal with it, right? And then, and you don't have to jump all the way in and be like, okay, I'm going all the way in. Like, no, do those little things. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe there's some journal prompts I can pick up and say, okay, and even if you're not a writer, maybe the phone's voice record, or even just to think about that question. Because one of the things about your brain is once you think of something, oh, it's gonna find answers.
Right.
It will not shut down. And it may not find the answers in a moment, but go to the bathroom, go to sleep, go wash car, wash dishes, and it's like ping. It's going to create a solution. It's going to try its best to figure it out.
Right.
So even just having some kind of a question or a prompt will begin that journey. And then when you get to stuff, you be like, ooh, that's a bit much, or you don't like the responses physically and emotionally that you're having to some of the questions. Now it's time to get extra help. You gotta get the help, because that person is equipped to help, and they're not doing the work for you, because baby, you still gotta do the work. But they're help to help guide you and see different perspectives. And I'll tell you from my own personal journey with my therapist, he'll say, can I give you another perspective, or are you open to another perspective? I already know that I gotta buckle up, hold my ankles and everything, because I'm not gonna like what he said. It's what I need to hear, and it's probably another perspective I need to see, but I'm all into my feelings, my emotions, and how that person did this. And he's gonna give a different perspective that now, once you've seen that new perspective, you got a decision to make.
So obviously the whole purpose behind this is to like end trauma for anybody who's going through it. So one of my questions to you was, do you think that trauma can be passed down from generation to generation? And of course, that's one thing that we would like to stop. So if anybody is having these traumatic experiences, they won't pass it down to the next generation. But what are some things that we can do if that is something that can be passed? Is it something that can be passed down from generation to generation?
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you have any family member that if you look at them, they be like, oh, you look just like so-and-so, so-and-so?
Oh, yes, definitely.
So you had a person. For me, it's like, oh, you look just like your mama. I was like, no, I don't. No, I don't. I don't look like my mama. I look like me.
I can't deny I look like my daddy.
But you know what? Like, well, because my mom and I didn't have the best relationship, I did not want to look like her. I don't look like my mama. Until one time I went in there and I looked at a family photo album, and I was like, where did y'all get a black and white picture of me with a fro? And they said, girl, that's your mama.
Wow.
Where I thought a picture of her was actually me. That's how, and I was like, oh, okay, you need to get out of whole denial. Okay,
right.
You were in total denial about this. And I'm starting with that because genetics, if we can pass down brown eyes, gaps in our teeth, or clefts in our chins, or, you know, hips and butt, like all the things, well, why wouldn't we be able to try pass down some of the other makeups? Like, and I'm just saying, because our genes are genetically coded, and in that genetic coding, if something has happened that was traumatizing, that is going to get passed down, because your body literally you start changing the genetic code based off the experiences you have.
Right.
So your genetic coding is changing, and if you have a baby and that genetic coding has changed, it has been passed down. But even more is that at one point in time in the journey, when your grandmother is pregnant with your mother, you are also present. And this is going to sound a little woo, everybody, but go look at the science, it's there. Because a woman, when she is formed, all of her eggs are her ovary, and all her eggs are formed from when she's an infant embryo. She's not gonna get any more. They are. If you got 5, you got 5. I'm just giving a random number. I do not know the number, so please don't be in the comments talking about the number, right? Whatever she has is what she has. But when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother, right? When your grandmother was pregnant with your mother, she had all her eggs. Your mother in the embryo had all the eggs she was going to ever have.
Wow.
You were one of those eggs. So you're at that one point, your grandma, your mother, and you were all living in the same body.
Oh.
You're all in the same body. So all the things that grandma experienced, your mom experienced because she's in utero,
right? And
you kind of experience it because you're inside your mom.
Wow, I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah, so it's like one of those. It's like people are like, ooh, I don't even like the science behind it. You ain't gotta like it. It's the reality. It's the reality. So can some of the trauma be passed down? Absolutely. And then here's the thing. You I wonder what she mean. I don't think it's true. What she's saying is a lie. So you already know I've heard that before, right? I said, okay. Let me ask you. You know, when you're sitting there and and you're telling the therapist, well, my grandma left my granddad because he was doing X, Y, and Z, and he had a whole nother family, and then my mama was doing this, and then my mama left my dad because he had a whole nother family, and then this guy that I gotta, keep going, keep going, because you're starting to see the generational patterns.
The cycle.
You're starting to see the patterns.
Yeah.
And the thing is that how do you break the patterns? And I'll tell a little bit about my story with breaking in this intergenerational trauma is going down, and some people even say intergenerational curses. That's a whole nother thing. We're not going to go down there, but it's a whole nother subject.
Right.
But let's just go with the intergenerational trauma and the trauma being passed down. And at some point, you got to break the trauma.
Right.
And it's typically most of the time I'm noticing, this is just me, what I'm noticing. It starts with that younger generation, and then they reflect back up, and they telling the person to do the work, and it reflects back up, right? So that's how I normally see some of the patterns broken. It may be different in your family, it may be different in your relationships. I don't know. But my mom, and this is a trigger warning. So the trigger warning. My mom experienced rape and sexual rape, right? I.e. the creepy uncle that comes in your bedroom in the night and goes tripping in the dark, right? And she was a teenager. And so she had to try to process all of that, and she didn't do a very good job of it. But there was no one to help her, and then her mom died at a young age. Her mom died when she was 16. So she got sent off with her older sister, whose brother went creeping in the night. Okay, well, her husband went creeping in the night to my mom. So it goes back to another question you had. Can you heal in a place where you experience trauma? You're in this situation. This is your caregiver who's crossed boundaries that should have never been crossed. Right? And so you have that. But then you have children. And you yourself are stuck in this situation where I don't have nowhere to go. I have to stay here. I got to make the best of it. Then you have children. You get married and you come back, and the marriage doesn't work, and you come for help from your sister and her brother, but you bring your girl children over to the place where you've been violated because you don't have anywhere else to go in your head, or you don't have the support system.
Right.
So then he tries to do the same thing to your children. Okay? But that happens in our families all the time, and nobody talks about it. Right? So then, but he gets to some of the kids, not my mom's kids, but when the family, we found out it does happen. He had a daughter by his niece, okay? But he never went to jail. Wow. So that means your sister's protecting you. Like, this is all kind of ugly. So that's why I said trigger warnings, you know what I'm saying? Because some people may be like, this look real familiar to me, right? But the thing is that when the second generation start talking about nasty uncle so-and-so, and it started coming out in the family, and we wasn't hiding it. So that was like, oh, he always be trying to touch on somebody, right? So that's the beginning of the healing process, because it's no longer hidden. Right. So then we go back to the other generation to say, why did you never say anything? why would you take me over there to a place where you know he violated you?
Right.
Why would you put me in that same situation?
Exactly.
But she's like, that's all I knew.
Yeah.
So sometimes we can't necessarily, because we don't know what they had to go through until we have these hard conversations, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was like, okay, so the course this generation, like, oh, my kids can't stay over nobody's house, and this is not.
That was my mama. She wouldn't let me go over.
Well, yeah. But I asked her why, and I think you may be in awe. Why?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, and I'm going to go down to, that's my generation. We're starting a conversation. We're doing the therapy. We're going to healing work. And now we're going to go down to my niece's generation, right? And so my niece had this big cotillion. It was beautiful, was coming of age. It's everything that my mom could have ever imagined and dreamed of as a girl. And then for her kids or her grandkids, like all her visions and all her dreams are starting to come true. And it was a gospel song in the middle of that cotillion, and my mom like had a Holy Ghost moment in the middle of this very pristine formal event. Yeah. And I almost went to guilt and shame because everybody's all dressed up and like she's having this moment. It's like, oh my gosh, like what do you do? But you know what? But I've done some work, and so we're supporting my mom, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but something's going on. And when and so we take her out, we keep her safe, just like if you were in church, you keep her safe, you watch the head or whatever, and then we take them outside, and we took her outside so she can gather herself. But it was like, but nobody in this room better say a word. Like y'all better not come for us, because I will peel back the degrees and stuff, and let's get it right in this formal. But that was my normal protector showing up, because I'm gonna protect my family, right? So we go out there, and when my mom comes back, she says generational curses are being broken. Oh my goodness. And so for her, so I'm getting a little emotional too. But she was overwhelmed because she saw the breaks. She saw the chains of property being broken. I'm like, oh my God. She saw the poverty being broken. She saw the family coming together, like this isolation of the family being broken. She saw, because everybody came in to support my niece. She's the youngest grandbaby. Everybody flew in. Wow. Everybody came in to support her. Where we had been broken and disjointed, we're now together. And there was so many tears to that she could see it, like she lived it. She's experienced, and then because she even experienced it from her mom, so she knew some of the things that we didn't know, and so she's just watching. Like it took the third generation or the fourth generation, but she was there to experience it. So I was like, yeah, it's real and it happened, but it takes everybody doing their work, being willing to have hard conversations, being willing to set boundaries, being understanding that this sucks that this happened to me, but I'm committed to my healing, and I'm committed to doing the work, and I'm gonna not only that, but I'm gonna let you do your healing, your work, and I'm not gonna impede my healing in a way I think it should happen on you. Where I don't mean to point, but you know, like it's like, so you get to heal in a way that's best for you. I get to heal in a way that's best for me, and then we come together and we strengthen our family. Like that's a whole nother level of healing and conversation and talk. So the question also goes back to, it is almost impossible to heal in the same place that you were traumatized. Because every time you, and some places, like with my mom and the situation I talked about her, even if she went to therapy, because she was living in the house with the perpetrator, she does not need to be 100% healed. Because you need to have a level of alertness to protect yourself when it's personal. Because if I heal you and you good, everything's good with the world, and ain't nobody's gonna hurt nobody, you don't have the defenses and the protection you need to be able to be on like, okay, let me kind of stay away from you. Like, so if her hypervigilance was a 10, and that was like everything moving, she's scared, she's jumping in the dark. So her hypervigilance a 10, if she comes to therapy, we only want it to get to a 2. We don't want it less than a 2, or whatever that number is for her, because she needs to stay safe in that environment. Now, if she's no longer in that environment and she's in a place where she can heal, then we want that baby down to 0. We want to get rid of all of that. Because you don't need that. You don't need that protector up to keep you safe. But if you're living in an environment, you need some protection to keep you safe.
That's good. So Kimberly, thank you so much for joining me on Light, Love, and Lyrics. Everything that you have said has really touched my heart so much, and I cannot thank you enough. So I just want to let you know that I appreciate you, and you have done so much enlightenment today that I don't even know where to begin, but the healing journey is real for me, and I appreciate you pouring that into me, and I hope that it poured into everyone could enjoy it. So I want to know one more thing though. I would like to know how everybody can find you, or where we would love to follow you, or look up some of your content, or whatever we decide to do.
It's fine.
Okay.
You are more than welcome. Thank you for inviting me on. I enjoyed it. Also, the thing is that I'm building content now, so you all start looking for me. You can find me at Kimberly Lovelady across everything. Across everything from the website to any of the social media. Just start at Kimberly Lovelady and you can find me. So that's the easiest way. Even if you are in Tennessee or surrounding states where I'm licensed therapist, you may think, I like what you're saying, but I think I need to take my tail to therapy. Mm-hmm. You can still find me that way, KimberlyLovelady.com. One of the things I want to say is, please, 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 if we have said anything today that has brought up some emotion, so I'm looking dead at you now, that brought up some emotion or brought up something for you, this is just awareness. That's what we're doing today, is awareness. Please don't use this as your therapy. It is not therapy. We are not in a therapeutic relationship. I need you to find your person. I need you to go get some work done and find your person that can go through that journey with you as you heal. This life ain't meant to be alone. Please don't do this healing on your own. Okay, please don't try it on your own. You can get so far, but you can get so much further with other people supporting.